Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Saddle Club series review. So the Saddle Club lasted for 3 seasons, and it first aired in 2001. The first 2 seasons aired in 2001 and 2003, but the third season aired in 2009. That was really weird and really rare for a show to do. It wasn't rebooted, it was just still the continuation. And so they had to recast everybody except for one person because the cast got too old and everything. Now, when it comes to the Saddle Club, this is my first time ever watching it. I've actually never heard of this show. I'm still not sure how this came on my radar. Either one of the following things happened. Either after talking about the show Free Reign, the computer, YouTube, the television, data mined, and heard me talking about horses and recommended this on YouTube. Either that happened, or I was researching Goosebumps, and one of the actresses from Night of the Living Dummy, she stars in that of the Saddle Club. So either I probably looked her up to see what else she did because I saw that one of the other bigger projects she did was Saddle Club. So I'm like, okay, what is that? And because I do remember researching it and discovering that the show had two completely different casts, even though it's the same continuity and everything. So I probably looked it up on YouTube and found an episode. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting and stuff. And then I later found this on Tubi. So this is how this came on my radar. So one or two things happened, most likely because I was looking up the cast of Goosebumps, because I always do that to see what they've been up to since, Goosebumps got canceled back in the 90s. And so I have to say, this is a pretty okay show. It's pretty cool and everything. It's nice, it's cozy, and it's quaint and everything, it's your typical preteen kid type show. It's a coming of age type show where it's a group of little girls. They're at this kind of equestrian competition thing where they're learning to ride horses. And so they go through the normal things that a normal person would go through. Learning to ride horses, overcoming that, the obstacles in life, the obstacles in learning how to ride a horse. Typical kid shenanigans and this and that, right? You always got the typical tropes and everything, learning how to ride, not being able to, learning how to overcome that. Bullies, the saddle ranch trying to close down, a horse that might be sick, somebody's life being in danger, stuff like that. So it's pretty adventurous and everything. I wouldn't say the show is groundbreaking or anything like that. It doesn't really keep you on the edge of your seat. I can't talk right now. The edge of your seat. Not sheet, like a sheet of paper. But there's some pretty traumatic stuff that happens in this show that took me by surprise. I was suspecting this to be some type of cutesy wootsy type of kid show, but nah, it's completely different. There are episodes where there are kids dangling off the side of a mountain cliff. And it's there are other episodes where first this one person falls off the horse and wakes up hours later, then they're dangling off the side of a cliff. There's one episode where a girl get bit by a snake and her horse saves her by killing the snake. You literally see the horse stomp on the snake. I'm just holy crap. Then there are episodes where like a horse is about to be euthanated, so the girls they kidnap the horse and just and ride off and everything. And so it's kind of like, so there's more to this show than just like a little kiddie show and everything. And I have to say this, man, even though Free Reign is really the only true horse show I've ever watched. There's a show called Ride I tried to watch. I really tried like years ago. I watched the first episode and I was like, that's it, I'm done. It's technically on Roku. I might try to rewatch it, and it's also on Tubi. I might try to watch Ride. But Free Reign is pretty much my horse show, you know what I'm saying? But I gotta give it up to the Saddle Club, man. The Saddle Club is actually better than Free Reign, which is crazy because Saddle Club is a show about little kids and preteens, and Free Reign is about like teenagers and not so much slightly young adults, but it's geared to that age demographic. But there's way more stuff that happens in the Saddle Club than Free Reign. Now, one reason is because Saddle Club has way more episodes. Both shows lasted for 3 seasons. Now, Free Reign is a streaming show on Netflix, and it lasted for, it has 10 episodes per season. But the Saddle Club has 26 per season, a total of like 78. And so, like, 26 each season, so that's more episodes, more things to do. But not only just that, there's way more dramatic stuff that happens in the Saddle Club than that of Free Reign. Free Reign is more like a story arc, whereas Saddle Club is more episodic and everything. And it's crazy to say that a show that came out like about 20 something years ago is way more engaging than a show that recently came out about 10 years ago and stuff, or 8 or 5 or something like that. But it's the honest to God truth. But I will say that the acting is better in Free Reign because the acting in the Saddle Club, is from like little kids, you know what I'm saying? It's not that they do a horrible job or nothing like that. It's just they're little kids, and for some of them, this was like their first projects and stuff. And so, like, yeah, I'm actually kind of glad I like gave this show like a chance, you know what I'm saying? Because it's pretty interesting and everything. Now, what's interesting about this show, like I said before, you can watch it on YouTube. And there's two different ways on YouTube. There's one that's uploaded legally and one illegally and everything. But if you watch the one on the actual like YouTube TV channel, it's gonna be in high def, which is awesome and everything. Because the illegal one is not, and even the one on Tubi is not. So that's kind of cool. You get to watch this older show in like high definition. Not only that, but the episodes are more in order on YouTube. Now, if you watch it on Tubi, then it can get a little confusing. Episodes are out of order. Not only that, but okay, there's one Tubi page that has all 3 seasons on it, right? There's another Tubi page that only has the first 2 with the original cast. Then there are a bunch of TV movies, but the thing is the TV movies are just like episodes combined together. And there are several TV movies and stuff, which really aren't TV movies because they're just episodes that are just combined. And so, yeah. So you have to really search really hard to find like the all 3 season page and stuff. Now on YouTube, the official page has all 3 seasons. The illegal one only has the first 2. For the most part, people tend to only like the first 2 seasons, and I can understand why. It's the original cast. It is kind of mind-boggling as to why it took about, what is it, like a 5 or 8 year hiatus from the original series. And yeah, the girls grew up to be like older teenagers and stuff and like young adults. I mean, it still could have, like, brought the original cast back, just older and stuff like that, you know? But I get it because this is geared for little kids, and in the original books that this is based off of, they are little kids and they rarely age in the books. And, but the TV show really truly is that of, like, a coming of age type show. And even though this is not geared for me, I did find this refreshing. Like, it's just nice to watch a nice, calm, quaint, like, show that's not, to take you away from the realities of what's going on in real life, because right now it's pretty crazy in my country and stuff like that. And, with the war going on and all kind of other crap, it's just nice to break away from reality. And a lot of stuff on television nowadays is so edgy and everything that it's just kind of like, edge is fine. Maturity is fine. Sometimes you just want a nice, relaxing show that anybody can watch. And this is a type of show anybody can watch and stuff. Now, what's really interesting and I find very fascinating about this show is that it was filmed in Australia. Two different locations in Australia because, the third season is in a different location. But the thing is, the books are based in, like, America, Virginia at that. And so, like, what is it? The fictional, like, stable place is called Pine Hollow Stables, right? But, like, it's supposed to be set in Virginia, but this show has it set in Australia. Now, there's the reason why. This is a hybrid show. It's an Australian slash Canadian show. So everybody is Australian, but they do have two Canadian stars on the show. And this is because of the collaboration for, like, the cost. This is something similar that happened with The Worst Witch that came on in the 90s. Was it the 90s or 2000s? I forget which one. But the original television show, it was a hybrid of, like, a British and Canadian thing. And that's how they cut the cost down, and they had to have Canadian stars. So, in order to cut the cost, they filmed in Australia, which was cheaper. And, in order to get kind of, I guess, that more of that discount type thing, they had to have Canadian stars. So they have two Canadian stars in this show. I will say with the Australian voices, it does give it more of a uniqueness, you know what I'm saying? And the otherworldly type quality than if it was just set in, like, Canada or, like, America, But it is kind of weird because Veronica is supposed to be, like, Italian, Italian American, but she's just an Australian girl and everything. And so over in Australia or over in Canada, this aired on YTV, which is, like, the typical, like, kids and teen Canadian network, right? Over in Australia, however, it aired on ABC TV for the first two seasons and then Nine Network on the last. However, over here in America and stuff, after the show's popularity in 2001, coming out in 2002, they aired it on Discovery Kids. It was also aired on, like, PBS and other, like, horse riding channels and stuff. So this was a huge global show. But not only that, it was nominated 4 times. They have, like, video games and stuff. But they did something that completely surprised me. They pulled a Disney Channel Nickelodeon thing and trying to get their young stars to become pop singers and everything. Yes, all the way back in the first season, they were recording music. In fact, the girls they sing the outro at the end credits and everything, and they have multiple like music albums and everything. They also have music videos, and they performed on like morning shows and stuff and news shows. This is crazy because you hear Nickelodeon, Disney Channel doing stuff like this. I was never expecting a Canadian, like Australian show to do something like this. And both sets of cast, got in on like the music thing, right? So there are tons and tons and tons of CDs. But here's the craziest thing. Disney Channel and Nickelodeon really wasn't capitalizing on music around this time in 2001. Like, it really wouldn't be until Even Stevens, that musical episode, and then later on with Lizzie McGuire, that they would really try to, and also the Cheetah Girls, they wouldn't really try to venture into music. And same thing with Nickelodeon and iCarly and stuff. And iCarly came out much later. They did do the whole Taina thing in 2001 with music, but they never tried to capitalize on it. So the fact that this Australian Canadian show was able to outbeat Disney and Nickelodeon is insane. However, these girls never went on to become like major, like, music stars and everything. But nevertheless, the fact that they did it first was really interesting and everything. Now, the show itself, like I said before, is based on a series of books that were created by Bonnie Bryant from 1988 to 2001. And of course, the show came out in 2001. It's funny because originally there were only supposed to be 4 books. Now there are over 100 and tons of spin-off books. Some books are written by ghostwriters, other by that of Bonnie. And the reason why these books came about is because she said her publisher said that there are tons of like horse crazy people who, like her words, not mine, who love that, like, love reading like horse books and everything, right? And so that's how this all got started. And it was only supposed to be 4. But people loved it so much that now there's over 100. And for the most part, a lot of the characters in the book appear in like the show. Not only that, but same thing with like their personalities and stuff and certain things that happen to them in the book. But there is a major difference between, like I say, the books and like the TV show. There always has to be like an adaptation and things tweaked and changed here and there. And sorry about that, a bug flew near my mouth. It's almost springtime. You know how it gets. I hate bugs and everything. But for a person who, for the most part, yeah, I am kind of like a horse person. I like them. I do like seeing them in shows and movies. I've never ridden one, but I wanted to when I was younger. But even though I do like horses and stuff, I've never really been into horse shows or movies. Like I might watch something called Black Beauty or Black Stallion or something like that back in the day, but I don't remember. But I do remember something about a black horse and something like that. But other than that, I've never really been into horse shows or horse movies or anything like that. There are tons of them out there. I just ain't never watched them. But Free Reign was really the only one I ever truly watched until now. And it's one of those things that where it's like, man, I would have loved to watch this back in 2001. But back in those days, like I said before, when it came to teen shows back in 2001, when I was much, much younger, I was just hooked on Disney Channel when it came to live action shows and Nickelodeon when it came to the cartoons. I never paid attention to Discovery Kids. I don't even think I knew about that until R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour came out on the Hub. So the premise of the show are these three girls that ride horses, and they're part of a club called the Saddle Club. Now, two of them, Stevie and Carol, they were already friends, and then they later met Lisa. And the reason why they're called the Saddle Club is because, well, just their love of horses and bonding over them and stuff like that. So it's like their own little clubhouse type thing. In the show, we get to see these girls that are completely different from one another. You know, you have the confident one who's kind of like the leader. You have one who kind of breaks the rules a little bit and is a little stubborn. And then you have the one who's shy, timid, and doesn't have much self-esteem. And so the great thing about this and this coming of age story and this bondness of like friendship is that, you know, they hold each other together. Like, you know, when one is down and can't do something, the other one will pick them right up and try to encourage them and stuff. You know, they're always there for one another, and they won't let their fellow, like, you know, Saddle Club member, like, you know, fall in disgrace, if you will, and everything. You know, they have a true kinship and everything to where it's more than they're just friends. They're like sisters, you know, sisters in arms who ride horses, if you will. And that's always a great message to see in television, you know, friends looking out for one another, being there for them, encouraging them, not putting them down or being antagonistic or anything like that, you know. And that's one thing that a lot of people have forgotten about, especially in today's times, is real friendship, you know, togetherness, like helping other people out and everything. And so it's like these girls are kind of, if you will, kind of like a little hero club, you know. Every time something bad happens to the ranch or somebody else, or like a horse, they're always there to kind of like save the day, you know what I'm saying? There was this one actor and he had to like be able to jump on a horse, but he couldn't. And he really wanted that role really, really bad. And if this one, I guess, like news reporter lady saw him unable to do it, then he would have been like a laughing stock. So two of the girls arranged to like fake it. I think it's called like a Texas switch or something like that, where they had like Stevie on the horse jump over the obstacle, and then she goes behind like something, and then out comes like the movie star, you know what I'm saying? And it saved him from like, you know, making a fool of himself and everything. So it's not just themselves they will help out, it's other people like as well. Then there's the bully Veronica, who like went missing. I think she got pissed and just stormed off on her horse, and she wasn't supposed to leave the campsite, but did, because she was upset about something. I think like a boy or one. She wanted a boy to rescue her. That's it, because she had a crush on him, and so she fell off her horse and was unconscious for a while. Then the horse left her. That's how they knew she was like gone. So Max, the guy who's in charge, he told them like everybody stay here. He's gonna go look for her. But the girls disobey the rules and they go looking for Veronica themselves because they don't want nothing bad to happen to her. And so Veronica's like fell off a cliff, and then like I think like Max tried to help or something like that. But then there were like these wild dogs that tried to like attack. And you know, if it wasn't for like the girls also helping out, then Veronica probably would never got rescued and stuff. And that's the thing about them. They're willing to even put their own like feelings about somebody they don't like aside just to help somebody. They remind me of the Buttercream Gang, that one movie I talked about a while back. Go watch that. And like, you know, it's just a group of goodwill people who try to help people, you know, and that's what's just so great about this show. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's good natured people doing good natured helpful stuff for others and stuff. And you know, when I was like on YouTube and I was like, you know, looking through the comments to see what people were saying about this show and like the music videos and whatnot, a lot of the people has talked about like, oh, this was my childhood, or oh, this show is so uplifting, or like, man, they don't make shows like this no more, or oh, like I'm falling in love again with this show and rewatching it, and just like all this like really nice stuff people kept saying about the show, and nobody was being nasty in the comments or nothing like that, and that's what I love to see when you go back and you rewatch a show you love and you re-fall back in love with it, and then everybody can like reminisce about it online, and because everybody have different experiences and feelings about stuff, kind of like the Gargoyles cartoon show. And I remember I said like they had like a convention, and that was on the DVD, and people talked about how this saved my life, or like how because the gargoyles were different looking and I'm different looking, they might have like a handicap or something like that, or disabled. They say, they felt like they wasn't alone. So every afternoon that show like helped get them through like hard times. And that's kind of like how this show is for like a lot of people. And it's sad that like there aren't that many shows like this no more, because everything has to be edgy or dark. And in fact, it's reported this year that in 2027 they plan on making a brand new Saddle Club, but it's gonna be all CGI. And so it's going to be for like a new younger audience. I don't know how the older crowd is going to feel about that, because, and personally for me, I would just as general, I would just like to see live action, because you can always see a cartoon, but when it's in live action, it's on a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? It's that realness of it all. And so it's probably going to be kitty looking CGI, kind of like the new Barney that they got out. That thing looks weird. And I used to watch Barney back in the day when I was a kid, like the original one on PBS. And I just went and looked at the CGI one. I'm just kind of like, oh, that thing's so ugly looking. It doesn't even look like Barney. Like, I feel bad for little kids, man. Like, I really do. Or kind of like when I tried to rewatch the new Magic School Bus that was on Netflix. I'm just kind of like, this is nothing like the original. Or like the Ghost Rider thing. It's just kind of like everything's just so different when they remake it. So I am kind of curious for hardcore fans of like the Saddle Club, when that CGI version comes out, and it's gonna be different. I do wonder how they gonna feel about that. Also, it's not gonna be set in Australia. Most likely it'll probably be set in like America. So gone are all the Australian accents. And who knows if they're gonna have music videos and songs and stuff. 'Cause, it's still in developmental stage right now. So I think they really should have just went with the live action route instead of CG. Like, but I guess it's gonna be for little kids, so only time will tell. But just like with all shows, there's romance in the air. So yeah, there's even like young love and everything. There's always people jealous of like, somebody liking somebody else on this show. Like, there's this kind of like, will they, won't they, kind of young love romance thing between Phil and Stevie. And then of course, like Veronica's jealous because she kind of likes Phil. And there's always like a new boy showing up where one of the girls has like a huge crush on him, and then another girl will have it. And, so it's always that jealousy type thing. And the whole thing between Phil and Stevie is just like hilarious because they both like each other, but they keep pissing the other person off. Mainly because Stevie has like a strong personality and she's always thinking Phil's being rude to her and stuff. And it's always like a miscommunication. And then there's Max and the woman that he's dating, a journalist, when they were supposed to have a movie in town, filming on the ranch. She came to like, the ranch stable, and they started dating. His mom actually got him to date her because, he doesn't really, he just hangs around horses a lot. So that's really the only thing he knows. He doesn't even know how to dress properly for a date, and the girls had to help him. And there was this time they overheard a conversation where, because the girl he likes doesn't like anything to do with horses, so that's kind of a turn off for him, but they still like each other. And so it was something going on to where she said, "You're gonna have to leave the ranch and get rid of it," or something like that, and he's like, "Sure." So the girls literally sabotage his date to where both Max and the girl that he's dating hate each other. But the ranch is also the name of his pickup truck that's like all beat up and everything. So they misunderstood that. So, this show has those little quirks of like romances here and there. Now, season two of the show does feel slightly different. Of course, the girls are now a bit older and everything, but that's not so much what's different. There are a couple of people who have been replaced before they actually replaced the entire cast in season three. Red, Melody, they get like recast. But not only that, but the show tries to be different in tone, a bit more cinematic. In season one, it was just a generic, basic, like little show. In season two, they tried to be a little bit more dramatic, dynamic. There's a scene where like a horse is in like, I think like, what is it, like a lake or river or something like that. And they're trying to push him out, and it's like this slow motion camera work that is trying to be dramatic, so the slow motion supposed to help add to that. Also, during certain scenes, there's now like weird, like bouncy kind of music playing that's supposed to set whatever tone they're in, whether it be serious, whether it be like silly, which is really different from that of season one. I don't know how I really feel about that. Like, it's okay. The music kind of gets on my nerves now, but like the slow motion stuff for dramatic, like, effect is kind of nice and interesting to look at. Also, with season two, we get some additional cast members. Like I said before, a couple of people get recast, like Red and Melody, but we get a couple of more, like Scooter and everything, and this one guy. And like not only that, but we get this French instructor, a former like horse rider who had an injury, who's instructing the girls. She starts off a little cold at first, but starts to warm up after a while, and then her and Red start to form a relationship. Then of course there's Carol's like it's kind of hard what to describe him as. Like, it's her father's girlfriend's son, and he's a little prickly and everything, and she doesn't really like him at first. And not only that, but of course he knows how to ride horses as well. When it comes to the life-threatening like drama side of season two, there is still peril when it comes to like the human people, like people falling off horses, or this one woman getting into a motorcycle accident. But in season one, it was more like the human peril side of it. And this season is more of the like horse side, to where a lot of the horses are now like, being sick, or you think they might die, like, oh no, something like very dramatic, something like that. Not dramatic in a Cobalt kind of way where he actually got put down, but in the sense that you think the horse is gonna die, but they actually don't. As compared to season one, where it's either like a snake bite of a human, falling off a cliff, being attacked by wild dogs, or something like that. One really cool episode of the second season had to do with the Blind Faith episode. An episode that brought over, like, young kids who are visually impaired, aka blind, to like ride the horses. Is there we meet a girl named Jenny who really, really, really like starts off like being afraid of horses and everything. Now, the reason why she's afraid is because of her mother. her mother has like instilled a bunch of fear when it comes to horses. And so, but then Jenny starts to lighten up towards horses and really wants to ride them. But her mother won't let her, to the point where she sneaks off to like the ranch and starts riding horses. Basically, in this episode, the reason like why her mom doesn't like horses, because her mom used to ride them when she was in her 20s, fell off, and now walks with a limp 20 years later. It's a really dramatic episode where, like, they're looking for her and Liam, and then next thing you know, the mom horse starts to, like, just take off, and the mom ends up getting hurt. And the mom is like super protective of her daughter and stuff like that. It was really cool to have the inclusion of like somebody who, is blind. And yes, the kids in this episode, they really are blind and everything. And they also did the whole thing, they say like, when you lose one sense, the other senses like get like 10 times better and everything, because she was able to hear where her mom was like very, very far away. Now, on top of all that, like I said before, the girls are getting older. They're either teenagers or preteens, and like their personalities are starting to change a bit. Especially that with fashion and that of wanting to date boys and getting irritated a whole lot more and stuff. Like, I couldn't believe some of the clothes, 'cause, they're girls and they're growing up. I couldn't believe some of the clothes they put them in. Because it's starting to focus more on like the music angle of the show. You hear a lot more music. Sometimes you'll have like they'll be like at a place performing, and like they want to be like a pop band, and so like this one gig they had, they dressed so scandalous, so grown up looking. I was like, oh my God. Like Carol's father was pretty much thinking the same thing I was. Like, y'all are not leaving this house dressed like this. He wouldn't let Carol leave that house dressed like that. And he was not going to let the other girls leave either. And then, of course, there's Stevie. Her romance is blossoming with Phil. And so Veronica, like, teases her about the way she dresses and stuff. Always her hair in a ponytail. Kind of like the tomboyish type thing. And so she decided, all right, for her date, she's going to wear a dress, do her makeup, get her hair done. And it was like, holy crap, she looked like she's ready for prom. Like, she looked like a completely different person. And so, with that and everything, it will make sense that the girls' personalities will change along with their age and making it more realistic and everything. Because they're not going to stay the cookie cutter kids that they were in season 1. And, and that's cool how the show will progress along with like the stars and everything. Which is what they should have done in season 3 instead of recasting everybody. But it just is like what it is and stuff. But it is interesting that the temperament of the girls is starting to like shift and change and stuff. But it is taking a bit more of like a teeny bopper kind of feel of like a show, with horses just like inserted into the show. Yes, they still deal with horses and problems, and they're still training and stuff like that. But the tone does feel different. Like they even have a hangout spot that's very colorful, very vibrant and everything, that like Scooter works at. And like, they get drinks, not those kind of drinks, but like, soda drinks and stuff like that. It's like a little kid hangout spot, which feels so weird and out of place with this show, because there was nothing like that in season 1. It was just all on the ranch. But they're trying to like appeal to like younger teenage girls, like with the second season and stuff. Kind of like how Dora the Explorer did when she turned into a preteen. The total vibe of the show completely changed. She was no longer like, I think what was it, the jungle or something like that. No longer had backpack talking animals. Now she was hanging out with teenage girls. And this is similar to how the show has taken this approach a little bit. But they still do like, the horse stuff and everything, which is good because this is what the show and the book is supposed to be based off of. But I will say it's a little less dramatic in terms of like, oh, a girl almost died. Because in this first season, almost every couple of episodes, one of the girls will be almost dying and everything, like falling off a cliff or getting bit by a snake, or or the horse throws them off and like they're in a coma, or like somebody's appendix burst, like we did with Lisa. It's like all the random things that could have happened in that episode, all of a sudden her appendix had to burst. Lisa was literally always the one getting hurt in season one. And like I told you before, the show did something completely unprecedented. 5 years later, after the second season, they recast everybody except for one character, the general. And the reason being is because, the original cast started to get older. And you can look at them and tell that, yeah, in between season 1 and 2, because they took like a year off, I guess like the film season like 2, they do look a lot different. They've gotten a bit older, more mature and everything. And you can tell that they no longer look like little kids. Now, the sad part is, it took 5 years in between season 2 and 3, and they didn't even let the original cast know that, hey, you're getting replaced. That had to have been heartbreaking and stuff. And okay, so logically, yeah, the original kid cast, but what about the adult cast? They got recast as well. And it's like, why would they recast them? Now, the only person who continued to be in all in season 3 and season 2, and the other one is like the Colonel guy, I believe. So it's like logically, it made they thought, okay, it can make sense for him to return. But what about the other adult cast? And it is hard to adjust to a new character. For the most part, like, no matter how many years go by, sometimes if it's like, okay, one season down, you get a new season and a new person taking over like one role, maybe two. Okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? Like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Aunt Viv. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, when you recast everybody, that is very jarring and it's hard to adjust to, no matter how good or bad the new people do. You know what I'm saying? It's like you see a brand new face and it's just strange. And of course, the height difference and the age difference and stuff, It was kind of like Family Matters, where the last season or two, they replaced the mom. And it's just kind of like, wait, what the heck is going on here? Also, the new actress who plays Stevie, she looks more like the original Veronica than she does the original Stevie. So I don't know why they just didn't cast her as that. Also, the Carol actress. Now, in season 1 and 2, you can clearly tell the actress is mixed, despite them giving her like 2 dark-skinned black parents. I was expecting the mom to probably be white or something like that, but no, they just cast like 2 black people who are dark-skinned to play like the parents, and then Carol, who is like mixed and everything, biracial. And so they went with that again with the new actress. But with the newer actress, she looks a whole lot more light-skinned than the original Carol. So then it's kind of like, well, hold up. This ain't making no sense. Like, clearly, when you look at Carol, she is biracial. But then you see her 2 dark-skinned parents. But now the new Carol is more lighter in tone than the original one. So it gets a bit confusing when you watch. But waiting 5 years or so for a new season to come out, that was a huge gamble and it did not pay off whatsoever because the third season was the last season. They should have just called it like the new Saddle Club or the Saddle Club continues with a brand new cast, character names that is and stuff. Similar to how the Worst Witch did back in like the 90s with the new Worst Witch. You know, they had a brand new class of like witches and everything. And some of them were related to like the original characters. And I think that would have been a better reception because, yes, the third season does have their fans. Because when I watched the concerts like on YouTube, I was curious to see what people were saying in the comment section. And a lot of people was talking about, this was my childhood and everything. They loved it. But then there are other people, like when I go to the actress who played the original Lisa, I think her name is Laura. A lot of people in the comment section said they stopped watching the moment the cast or the show got recasted and everything in the third season. They just couldn't do it. They said like, it was weird. They grew up with these characters and all of a sudden here these brand new people. And even though I did not grow up with this show, I didn't watch it when it came out. I'm just now watching it now for the first time. And it's like, even though I know that they got recasted in the third season, I am prepared for that. It still feels weird. It's like, who are these new people? Why do they have different faces? Why are they all younger and everything? Even the adults are younger and stuff. It just feels so weird and everything, And, and there's nothing against the new cast. I mean, they had the opportunity of a lifetime. You know what I'm saying? And like, because they did a good job. Now, I have not finished the third season yet. I'm only on the first episode, but I'm only like halfway through. And so once I do character bios, then I will have then completed the third season because when I do character bios, I'm going to do the comparison to both, seasons and stuff. But it's just weird coming in with new faces because the weird thing is like I said before, the new Stevie should have played Veronica. She looks more like the original actress. The new Veronica looks more like the old Chrissy and everything. So I don't know why they just didn't swap their characters. Now, speaking of some old characters, it's not just a recast. Some characters were written completely off and everything. Like Red, Deborah, like what the heck happened to Deborah and stuff? She hasn't been seen since the first couple of episodes in the second season. After that, she just disappears and it's kind of like she's Max's wife. She was supposed to help run the ranch when him and his mom were gone. So where the heck is she and everything? She's not even mentioned so far in the third season. At least Chrissy got mentioned in a cell phone call, but Chrissy has been written off. Red has been written off. I think Ashley as well. And Ashley was all up in the second season along with Melanie and everything. And so it's just like, and then Scooter is gone. Liam is gone. And it's just kind of like, it's not just a new cast. It feels like a completely different show and everything. With a brand new barn and everything. And I guess that, what they're trying to say, we repainted. It's like a new location they filmed in and they got new horses. One of the horses, I can't remember which one, it's either Prancer or it's Belle. They're supposed to have a white mark between their eyes and these horses don't have that. So it just feels completely weird. And not only that, but the personalities are kind of different in everything. Like the old Veronica, like this is the part I'm gonna hate saying, but Veronica, the original one, was actually my favorite character along with Stevie, even though Veronica was evil. But I like the way the actress played her with the confidence and stuff like that. And it's funny the stuff she said. 'Cause here's the thing, the different personalities. The old Veronica, she would say all this nasty stuff, but you really feel like she believed it. Like she has this confidence to her, she has this arrogance to her because she's been brainwashed by her parents to think that they are better than everybody else. So everything that comes out her mouth to her just sounds completely normal and nothing's wrong with that. So she is mean, but in a very privileged, old school kind of way. The new Veronica, which does a good job acting and everything, she's just coming off as a stereotypical mean girl in a movie trope and everything. So you have one who exudes this confidence and like, is just stuck up mean, but then you have the other one who's just a mean girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's weird when like, personalities are slightly off as well. Because, it's a different person taking over the role and they bring their own flavor to like, that role and stuff. So I just now finished season three and that was a bit of a chore to get through. And the reason why it was a bit of a chore to get through, only because everything just feels so different and they rehash a lot of storylines from previous seasons. Like, one of my favorite episodes of season three is probably Lisa's Choice Part 2. But the one reason why is one of my favorites is because there's a season two episode, I forget the name of it, that is extremely similar to it. It's just reworked around. Basically, what it is that once again, Belle is like sick and looks like she's dying and everything. And it's because they think it's a virus caused by another horse. This causes a big dramatic scene and, a bunch of crying, this and that. And like they have to determine what the heck is going on or if the horse is going to need to be put down. Quarantine, this and that. Oh, well, it turns out the horse just got poisoned. Like, really? It's the same exact storyline, but it's just now one horse is different, and the character doing all the crying and stuff is like Lisa instead of like, Stevie and everything. And it's just kind of like, come on now, get a little more original. Now, there were some originality in this season, like the mine shaft, like Fool's Gold episode, and, finding like, a donkey and trying to hide it and this and that. And, and also like, Carol running away and living in the woods. Like, what the world? I did but it's like at least that's original. But it's like I don't see those characters really doing that. Yes, I can see Melanie, hiding a donkey, but I don't see Carol going to the extreme of wanting to live in the woods. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, but there was a lot of bickering this season. It's like the Saddle Club girls are just always arguing with each other. And I get that. That's character development and stuff like that. It just feels weird coming from a completely different cast. Like, it probably would have made a little more sense if it was the original, but at that same time, it's like they don't argue that much with each other. And they constantly would just get mad at the littlest things. And it's just kind of like, what the heck is going on? But like I said before, if it was the original cast, it would have been a little bit more believable because they were teenagers at that time. Here, they're not. They're back to being little kids. Also, inserting music and music videos constantly in the third season felt so out of place. It's like almost nearly every episode ended with some type of concert type thing and a music video to go on top of that. It was as random as season two when the girls just bust out a song and start singing. But at least, when they're doing stuff, like, hey, let's sing. That's more believable than them just constantly making a music video at the end of an episode. Also, the disappearance of characters is just so mind blowing. Like, Phil is barely in this season. Like, it doesn't even feel like him and Stevie are going out. It's just, I don't know. Like, this third season should have just been a reboot. It should have just been. They should have acknowledged that and everything else. But I think, and also it was crummy. I mean, 6 years passed between season two and three. And so by that time, the original cast was older. They were like young adults at that time. They were in between the ages of like, 18, 19, and 20. Because Sophie, the actress Sophie, she was 11 when she started. So she should have been around 17 or 18 around that time when the new season started and everything. And the Lisa character, I don't know about the actress, the Lisa character was like 14 in season two. And so she would have been like what, 19, 20 by season three. So, with the characters getting older, the audience at the same time were either teenagers or young adults. So to re-age them and make them younger just felt so off and everything because they were trying to appeal to a new audience, but they're using the same continuity storylines from the last two seasons. And it was such a blow to the original cast because after season two, they were still doing the music stuff for like the Saddle Club. So they was older, making music videos, concerts, this and that. Then got the news, hey, you're being replaced. So that had the blow. But the one actress who played Christy, Kia, props to her, man. Like in season three, she wasn't like in front of the camera, she was behind it. She was directing episodes, producing episodes, was part of the third unit, like directing team and everything. It's like, wow, man, like good for her. She should have made a cameo, like hide yourself. Because the original actress who played Melanie, I could have sworn she had a cameo in season two. There was some type of horse event going on. And I think Lisa and Stevie was watching Carol, and there's just some girl standing next to Lisa who looks just like the original Melanie and stuff. Didn't say nothing, just watched and stuff. But yeah, season three was a little bit of a chore to get through. And I feel bad for the new stars because, here they are coming in the opportunity of a lifetime. And the internet, it didn't have Twitter and stuff back then. It was Facebook and MySpace, but people weren't really doing the social media, like posting every thought and everything at that time. And third season got canceled. So they probably blamed themselves, probably, or took a little bit of the blame because they're all like, oh, people just didn't like us and everything. And I feel bad for them if that's the way they felt because of the simple fact. It's not their fault, it's production fault. They should have just rebooted it and let everybody know, hey, this is either a reboot or a continuation, but with brand new characters and stuff. And have the old original characters make a cameo, kind of like what The Worst Witch did. But I will say, like, for a show that lacks diversity, like it really does, although the new Lisa is actually Jewish, I will say this, the cast spans from like everywhere, man. You have people from New Zealand, Australia, England, South Africa, Canada, and one is half American, half Australian. Like, this was like a real global show and everything. Sadly, when it comes to this show, there have been some people that passed away. So may these people rest in peace. For one, it was extremely shocking to find out she died and how she died and stuff. So, like, when I was researching the show and everything, I Googled it. And, like, when you Google something, like, somebody else will ask, like, a question. There's, like, a little triangle mark at the bottom. And then you click it, and then it will answer. And one of the things said, which girl from the Saddle Club passed away? I'm all like, what? No. And so I clicked it. And I didn't recognize the name at first because I hadn't like really watched the series yet, and I hadn't got the season 2 yet. But then as I was looking on Wikipedia, I saw that it was the second Melanie and everything. And I'm like, oh my God. She died at 17 years old. I can't believe that. Like, that's just tragic. Like, she never even got to experience a full life or even half of a full life and everything. To die so young. I think she was on her way to college, graduating high school or something like that, and taking up music because she took time off from acting and started to pursue music more with her brother. It was just so sad because she was so adorable on the show. And like, yeah, they said she was walking near like some, I guess like the train station tracks or something like that, tripped and fell and like died. That's just sad. Like me thinking of myself at that age, and it's just like, I just can't believe it. And then sadly, when I was researching the rest of the cast, I saw that more people had died. Another tragic death is that of Deborah. Now, early on in this video, I might have said Max married Megan. My bad, that was a mistake. Megan was the little girl from season 1 who was kind of friends with Veronica, but then left after season 1. But yeah, the actress who played Deborah, the actress who played Deborah was so sweet on the show. Such a fun, lovely character. But I was always wondering, why did she disappear halfway into season 2? Only in the first couple of episodes she's in, and then she just completely disappears. And it's just kind of like, well, where the heck is she? She's Max's wife. And they acting like she doesn't even exist anymore. And plus, she was supposed to help like Cole take over the place when Max and his mom had left for a while. And then she's never mentioned or shown in season 3. But then I think she retired shortly after the show concluded and stuff. And she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. They cut that one out and gave her radiation. But then at some point in time later, a second one developed. And that one was terminal. And sadly, she passed away. And she's not the only person to die from cancer. Now, Dr. Judy, I'm not sure how she passed away, but that actress passed away as well. And her sister died of cancer. Then you have the new veterinarian person from season 3. Okay, IMBD reads her as Abby Williams, but Wikipedia has her as the new Judy. So until I get to season 3, I'll figure out what her name is. But for now, I'm just going to call her Abby. And she passed away of cancer. Then the actor who played Veronica's father, he passed away from cancer as well. And it's just like, oh man, this is just so sad. So, oh, and I think one of the horses, the original Prancer, I believe, or the second Prancer, I can't remember, passed away from colic and everything. Just so sad. It's just so sad, Like you watch these people on screen, you develop like, some type of bond, and then next thing you know, they pass away. So may they rest in peace. Now, one thing I'm very disappointed when it comes to this show, other than the 6-year hiatus between the second and third season, is the lack of diversity in this show. This is a predominantly all-white show, with the exception of Carol and her father, who are both black, Carol's mom, who's also black, the new girl in season 3, who is black, let's see, Raphael, whose race I have no idea what he is, but he's like a traveler, a Roman, Romania, something like that. What is it? That woman from the end of season 2 who tried to rip Carol off when it come to the price of the book. She looked half Asian. Other than that, everybody else is white in this show. Even the background characters, the special guest characters. Like Liam Hemsworth guest starred in this show. And it's like everybody is white, which I'm not surprised because this is an Australian Canadian show. And like a lot of the Canadian shows I've seen have always been predominantly white. I haven't seen that many Australian stuff, but I've never seen H2O. But I watched the intro because I was curious, and I'm like, wow, all 3 seasons, everybody's white. And when I did some research on it, people said black folks only showed up in the third and final season. And I'm just kind of like, what the heck? This is Australia. Australia has more than white people. First of all, they got black, they have Chinese people. Some people from New Zealand hop on over and, they're like Maori and stuff like that. But not only that, but what about the original Australians, the Aborigine people? Not a single one of them was in this show. And I'm just kind of like, wow. Like, wow. And like I said before in many videos in the past, this is the early 2000s. This is why representation matters. You couldn't even have like a background character be a person of color. Like, come on, man. This is why I don't want to go back to this crowd. But I do feel like the entertainment world is going back to that. Okay, so time for character bios. When I do the character bios, I'm going to do the main characters and a few of the recurring. If it's somebody like a really small character, like say Megan from season 1, then I'm not going to talk about them. Because there are a lot of characters in this show and not everybody appeared that much and stuff. But only if they had like a significant storyline or something like that. And that is weird, because now I gotta go through like 2 completely different casts. Okay, I'm gonna cap this video off right here because my video got a little too long. It was actually 2 hours long. I don't understand how I talk for 2 hours about a kid's show about horses. But you know how I am. Once I start talking, I can't stop. So I just figure I'll just cap it off and do a part 2 in a few days. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.